What's really good? What's really good? What's really good? Welcome back to another live edition of the Sanchez Show on a Sunday again. I told you guys, I spoke to you guys on Thursday. I said we're going to be running it back on Sunday once we kind of knew what the game sevens were looking like, what we kind of knew the second round was looking like. So we're back. Super excited to get to it. We got so much to get into. Shout out to the comment section, all the support over there. Squeeze, John, Pooh. I see all that. We're gonna get to all that. We're gonna get to all that, man. I appreciate it, man. First and foremost, make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast. As you guys know, I'm normally live Wednesday nights, 7:30 p.m. This week we're gonna be live Wednesday, and then we're gonna add an additional day again, as we're doing right now. Could be Thursday or Friday, depending on. I'm gonna double check the schedule. I want to kind of give you guys another live as we get into the middle of the second round matchup. So it'll probably be somewhere around Thursday or Friday, maybe Saturday, but probably leaning more towards Thursday, Friday. But make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you are following me across all social media platforms. You see it right there, Legend in Two Games, completely spelled out. The second round is pretty much laid out for us. We had a little bit of boxing yesterday. We can get into that as well. We're going to go live for about an hour right now as we prepare for the first of two game sevens today. Orlando at Detroit. Can Orlando bounce back after blowing just a terrible fucking game from the Magic in the second half? I believe they only scored 28 total points in the second half of that game, 29 total points, something like that. They had a 24-point lead at one point. They could do no wrong. They kind of had Cade and the Pistons as a whole on life support, and Orlando let it go in front of their home crowd. So we're going to get into that as well. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Real Fans, Real Talk. Make sure you guys are locked in as my brother Trip Young and I give you our thoughts on the Game 7s tonight. We're going to talk a little bit more about predictions tomorrow because the second round officially kicks off tomorrow. Knicks are the first game tomorrow, Knicks and Sixers at 8 o'clock, and then you got T-Wolves Spurs at 9:30. So you kind of got an overlap of both games. Should be great series, should be both entertaining. We're going to get to those in a second, but let's get to the comment section. Also, shout out to my brother Will Gordon. He's going to be back on the lives very, very soon. I know a couple people have asked me about it. Will had to take a little bit of time away. So you already know, bro. You already know what it is. Get yourself right, then get back to it. Let's get to the comment section, though, because I know a lot of people got some questions. Shout out to Kyrie. It is the first. Shout out to Shad here. Let's go. Let's get to it, Kyrie. Let's get right to it. Did the Celtics choke a 3-1 lead or did Philly take it? It seems like when Embiid came back, they were doomed. Um, Boston choked away a 3-1 lead. That's first and foremost. That's the most obvious. You're up 3-1. You have an opportunity to put a team away. You don't put them away. It's a choke. However, Philly deserves a lot of credit. You look back at this series, after getting blown out by 30 points in game one, Philly wins game two in Boston. They kind of settled themselves. They got themselves situated, right? Game three, they had an opportunity to win. Tatum makes some big shots in game three to take game three in Philly. Embiid comes back game four. Philly seems a little disjointed. The momentum was kind of cracked at that point. They were trying to figure it out with integrating Embiid into what they have been doing. And Maxey had been great through those first three games. And then they find themselves down 3-1. Now, Nick Nurse in this situation is going to come away looking like a genius because you sacrificed that game four of bringing Embiid back and letting him get kind of his legs under him for the greater accomplishment of being able to win the series. The reason I say he comes across as a genius is because ultimately it worked. Had they lost this series, I think a lot of people would have pointed back to game four and said, hey, you really broke their momentum right there because you look at game two and game three, the way Maxey played and the way the team was playing around Maxey, you guys look like you had a legitimate shot. And then game four comes around, you get blown out, and Embiid trying to get himself back involved really threw your momentum off and through the chemistry you were building. So it could have gone either way. But I lean more towards the choke of the Celtics. Celtics had opportunities here. Again, you're up 3-1. You get the opportunity coming back home for game five. You don't do the job there at home. You don't do the job in game six. You can't get the defensive stand or knock down an open shot yesterday in game seven. Boston had plenty of opportunities. They were a heavy favorite to win this series. I don't want to hear anything other than what it was. It was a choke. The Boston Celtics fell apart in front of our eyes. And it got me really thinking as I watched this game yesterday. Boston has had a couple of these the last couple of years. Now, winning the championship a couple seasons ago kind of made people forget about that. it cemented their legacy. It made people forget that, all right, maybe this team has had some closing issues. Maybe this team has had some really series defining issues. But you look back over the last 4 years, it was this series against Philly that they blew 3-1. It was the back-to-back blown games in game one, game two against the Knicks last year, right? The year before that, they win the NBA championship against the Dallas Mavs. All is forgiven. But the year before that, they were down 3-0 to the Miami Heat team, an 8 seed Miami Heat team that they were heavy favorites again then. And so there have been multiple instances of this Celtic team, as I love to say, shit in the bed as a heavy favorite. And the one championship in there kind of glazes over that, and we forget that because yes, they are champions, and Jaylen Brown was great in that series, and Tatum was good for most of his playoff career. But as a heavy favorite, the Celtics almost can't be trusted anymore. Again, the blown leads, the blown series, the 3-1, both 20-point leads last year against the Knicks, down 3-0 to the Miami Heat, that was an 8 seed. These are really, really bad outcomes for this team. And maybe this speaks to Joe Mazzulla as a head coach. Maybe Joe as a head coach isn't doing enough to prepare his team. Now, I'm going to get to Joe in a second because I didn't like what I saw from Joe Mazzulla to start this game by switching up the starting lineup. You look at their starting lineup, outside of outside of Brown and White. I know Tatum being out, but outside of Brown and White, no other starters scored. They went with Pritchard off the bench. They went with Cade off the bench. They went with Hauser off the bench. Instead of starting your best five, it's almost like, oh, I'm going to try to give some of these bench guys some early minutes. Harper, Garza, right? Shireman, I'm going to give them some early minutes, hoping that it boosts their confidence. Those three guys did not score. They did not score. So what you did was you actually put more pressure on your core five, the five that you trusted the most, to close out the game because you couldn't go back to those guys. Look at the minutes that Ron Harper and Shireman and those guys played yesterday. And I'm gonna bring up the stats in the background right here. Like, you had guys started that you didn't trust to play again. Harper Jr. played 4 minutes. Garza played 9 minutes. You pretty much went with the guys we thought you were going to go with. Pritchard, Cada, Hauser off the bench. They were the guys who scored off the bench. They were the guys who you trusted the most off the bench. And they played along with 45 minutes of White and 45 minutes of Jaylen Brown. You didn't trust those guys anyway. So why start them? Why not go with your guys? Why wouldn't you start Peyton Pritchard? Why wouldn't you start Hauser and try to see if you can get the shooting going earlier and then bring the bench in as the game settled in a little bit and you're making your adjustments? I thought that was just bad coaching by Joe Mazzulla in that instance. Kyrie said also, and Boston just jacked up threes. I hate that. And Derek White, we still looking for him. Derek White played well yesterday, right? Now, Derek White, again, didn't shoot well, but the effort, the defense, we saw the block, 5 of 16 from three is unacceptable. But again, you put Derek White in a situation where you look at the rest of the guys who started. Harper took 1 shot. Showerman took 4 shots. Garza took 2 shots. It really was White and Brown shooting all of the shots. Brown goes 9 of 26. I'm sorry, 12 of 27. White goes 9 of 26. The next closest in terms of shot attempts is Peyton Pritchard, 5 of 13. Peyton Pritchard should have started. He started almost 60 games for you during the regular season. Why wouldn't you start him in game 7 with everything on the line? Why would you trust inexperienced guys like Harper and Garza to start? That made no sense to me. So Joe Mazzulla, I think we've got to question some of his motives because, again, he's been at the center of these collapses. He's been the reason that the Boston Celtics have seemed ill-prepared for a lot of these matchups. They were heavy favorites against the Knicks last year, and they blew back-to-back 20-point leads. They were heavy favorites against the Sixers this year, and were down and were up 3-1 and somehow blew that series lead. They were heavy favorites against that AFC Miami team and were down 3-0 before they mounted a comeback. So this is on Joe Mazzulla. He's a NBA champion. He has the trophy and the hardware to prove it. They had that run. But outside of that, the other 3 years around that 1 year, very questionable. We got to look into all that. Shout out to Shad here. Lakers advance, beating Rockets. I'm amazed how bad of a shooting team the Rockets are. It was amazing. It was amazing to watch. The Rockets got a lot of issues, man. And Shad, I agree with you. This season for the Rockets went downhill really, really quickly. Think back to what we thought of them back in October, November. Started the season, they're playing well, and Şengün and KD look like 2 just really great offensive forces that are going to carry this team. We knew they had to figure things out with Shepherd. We knew they had to figure things out with Jabari as the time went on. But we thought by this time, Ime would figure it out. They couldn't figure anything out. I didn't like a lot of his rotations. I didn't like how long it took them offensively to figure out, hey, why are we not targeting Luke Kennard? Why aren't we pushing the tempo against a Laker team that one, their best player is 41 years old, two, they're shorthanded. They're shorthanded. Why are we playing to their pace? Why are we making this a methodical game that LeBron can dictate? I didn't like what I saw from the Rockets at all in this series. Ime Udoka could be on a hot seat. I'm not going to go as far as say he will be fired, but I think he is on a hot seat. And you look at the Rockets last year; they were the number 2 seed last year. They were the young up and coming team. They were the exciting team, right? They were the team that you could say, all right, this future looks bright. And then they add KD. They end up being the 5th seed. They don't get any better record wise from last year. I don't think they got any better improvement wise. I don't think Jabari's better this year than he was last year. Excuse me. I don't think Reed Shepard is better. I don't think Shingun is better. I don't think none of those guys got better. We were assuming that last year would be the appetizer for then ultimately this team ascending and becoming a better version of what we saw. They got worse. And so if we want to say it's the KD effect, sure. If we want to say it's the Ime effect, okay. But one of those guys is the reason for this. One of those guys is the reason. It's either KD and maybe he's got to get him out of there. Crazy to say, KD's played on 4 different teams over the last 7 years, right? We're talking Golden State, we're talking Brooklyn, we're talking Phoenix, and now Houston. Or maybe it's Ime. Maybe Ime is not a good head coach. And maybe we praised him too much for his success in Boston when it might have just been what was centered around 2 great players in Tatum and Brown. Either way, Houston completely shit the bed. They were minus 900 at the start of the series and somehow found themselves down 3-0. So something's got to change there. Shout out to Squeeze. What's next for the Rockets? Do you keep Durant? I ask because if you're a team and the things he said about his teammates on the burner are true feelings, KD, all-time great, but he seems like a snake. Yeah. The burner account is going to be a big issue. There's been a lot of talk back and forth about the burner account and if it truly was a burner account or if somebody leaked group chat messages. Either way, it was terrible for KD to share those thoughts and opinions in that setting. And as I just said, Squeeze, they're going to have to make a very tough choice on, is it Ime who's the problem? Is it KD who's the problem? I think they run it back one more year. If I had to put money right now, May 3rd, as the playoffs are still going on and as their loss is still fresh, the wounds are still fresh, I would say they run it back with the thinking of Van Fleet will opt in. They'll have their veteran point guard. They'll try to add a vet or two off the bench. And then they're going to go from that perspective. Their thinking is probably that Reed Shepard and Jabari will benefit from having a veteran point guard like Fred Van Fleet, that KD's job will become easier because he can just focus on scoring. So I think they will run it back. But they still have a lot of questions in that building. And I don't think they got better from last year. In fact, I think we look at the Rockets completely different now. Last year, we looked at them as an ascending team, a team that could be a future threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now we don't even look at them in that way. So it's a lot to digest with the Houston Rockets, man. Did Tatum come back a little too soon? That's why the leg calf messed up. I'm gonna say he did not come back too soon. I think what really intrigues me about this Tatum situation and him sitting out yesterday with the calf and potential injury. And shout out to Squeeze because that goes kind of hand in hand with what Squeeze said here. Eric is crazy. All these injuries in the playoffs and they be hamstring and calf injuries. Yeah, the stress and the wear and tear that guys are experiencing right now is really tough. And I don't know if there's a true way to alleviate that other than rest, other than guys being able to rest their body, rest up, get better in that regard. But and treatment, of course. But in regards to Tatum, I don't think he came back too soon because all the reports we read was that he was working out with the team for weeks prior and he had kind of tested out the Achilles prior to playing. He had done a lot of extensive work and training just to feel comfortable on the basketball court. So if all that is true, I don't think he took too long. I don't think he came back too soon. The intrigue in this, and this goes back to Joe Mazzulla, was I highlighted this on the Thursday live when I said, man, I'm surprised Tatum is playing as many minutes as he's playing. Because back to Squeeze's point here and with Kyrie's question, the stress that he was putting on the legs, The stress that he's putting on his body, these are high intensity minutes. Playoff minutes are not like regular season minutes. These are high intensity minutes. And when you're talking about a guy who just a year ago ruptured his Achilles, who just started playing over the last month and a half, and now you're putting 40 minutes. And there were at times you look at some of their lineups, he's playing like a pseudo 5-4. Like he's in the paint banging around with guys, and a lot of stress, wear and tear, leaning on the body, a lot of responsibility on offense. That to me is where it got really tricky with Tatum. I don't know why they just didn't ease him in. We heard from the jump, oh, there's no minutes restriction. Why isn't there a minutes restriction? Why wasn't the thought of, hey, 25 minutes a night for the first month? Let's ease him in. Let's get his body used to the stress and the wear and tear we're going to put on his body come playoff time. Instead, it was unlimited minutes right away, and maybe that is what affected the calf. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But when you're talking about a guy who was dealing with one injury and coming off an injury, and now first series of the playoffs, he sustains another one, you have to wonder if his body was trying to overcompensate for what he was already dealing with. Shout out to Pooh. Are you surprised the Timberwolves put the Nuggets without their two stars, but Ayo was out? Joker got some lazy in him. I know he's great. And when he losing, he want to fight. Yeah, that's pretty accurate all the way around. I mean, I'm surprised that the Timberwolves won the series because from start I said I expected the Nuggets to get their revenge from 2 years ago. I expected the Nuggets, who were a deeper team now than the last time these two teams played, a team who was healthier than the Timberwolves coming in. I thought the Nuggets would get this series. They didn't. It started with the adjustments that were made in game two. Shout out to Jaden McDaniels. I think he deserves all the credit. He backed up all the shit he talked. He put the Nuggets on blast after game two and then stuck by that. He said they were a terrible defensive team and stood in attack mode. I thought he did a great job of really hounding Jamal Murray all series. The Nuggets, to me, were just really, really bad, and they got a lot of questions to answer. This is deeper than just, oh, we lost to the Timberwolves without their two stars. You were the healthier team all series. I know Aaron Gordon missed a little bit of time, but you had everybody else. Remember, for the last 2 years, we talked about Denver not having their bench, and that was a key part of them being able to win a championship a couple years ago. Well, they got their bench this year, didn't they? Didn't they get Cam Johnson? Didn't they get Hardaway Jr.? Right? Didn't they get Valanciunas? Didn't they add guys to give them more depth so that they wouldn't have to rely on their core two, core three guys for 40 plus minutes a night? And yet somehow they were still down 3-1 in this series, even though Minnesota was missing their backcourt. And then in game six, the Sumo's out. So you're talking about three of your best six players are out of the game, and you still can't win, and you get blown out pretty easily. Disgusting performance by the Nuggets. They really should be embarrassed by their performance and what they put forward. And I think to the last part of that, Pool, keep in mind, somebody had posed a question a couple weeks ago on here on the live about the legacy of Joker and could he be a top 10 player of all time? And my response to that was, he's got to solidify the resume. He's got to win a little bit more. He's got to do more with that resume. He's got to put himself in a better position to be in that conversation, because all the guys that are in the top 10 are not only multiple time MVPs, they're multiple time champions, to go with everything else that's on the resume. So he's got a lot of work to do to get in that conversation. But when you're talking about a guy who now, outside of winning that championship a couple years ago, hasn't even been back to the conference finals, I don't like what I'm seeing from the Denver Nuggets. I don't like what I'm seeing from Joker. He's got to be a better leader. He's got to be a better defense player. He's got to have more commitment to the advancement of this team. And the Denver Nuggets should be embarrassed by that performance. Shout out to John. With Luka not close to returning, how many games can the Lakers win versus OKC? That's a tough question, John, because I think even with Luka, this probably was a 5-game series, maybe 6. Maybe Luka can give you an MVP performance and steal one against Oklahoma City. But Oklahoma City, in terms of depth, in terms of efficiency, obviously Shea, every advantage in this series points to Oklahoma City. Now, I was going to save this for tomorrow night because I know Oklahoma City does not play till Tuesday, but we could talk about it now. And it's going to be something else I bring up again tomorrow on the live. The previous 7 NBA champions have all lost in the second round of the playoffs. Oklahoma City is a heavy favorite, just like a lot of those other champions were, just like last year's Boston team was. I don't think the Lakers can win. However, it will be interesting to see if the Lakers hang tough early with them. If the Lakers can find a way to win one of these two games in Oklahoma City, because that's got to be the mindset, just find a way to win one. Just win one of these games, and let's come back home in the series with some momentum and see what we can do from there. Maybe things get interesting. Maybe LeBron can, he's a great leader. It's nothing against LeBron. It's just we know they're so undermanned in this situation. But maybe if they can find a way to win one, LeBron can muster enough in those two games, maybe in LA, to turn back the clock just a little bit and see if he can give the Lakers an advantage. Even with that, I still don't think it's enough. Again, every advantage in this series points to Oklahoma City. The depth, right, with their bench, the efficiency in the way they score, the defense, their ability to just throw multiple bodies, and they're going to wear down LeBron so bad in this series. They're going to wear him down. He's going to have to, like I said, this is going to where his basketball IQ is going to have to try to save the Lakers and keep them in this game and in these series as much as he can. He's got to understand he's going to have to pick his spots. He's going to have to figure out when to go into overdrive and when to just put it in cruise control and save some of the energy for the fourth quarter. But it's a tall task. Reeves is going to have to be great. LeBron is going to have to be great, and they're going to have to find someone else to come along with them. Is it DeAndre Ayton? Is it Hachimura? Is it who else? Is it Kennard shooting? Somebody. They're going to need a third guy with them. With all that being said, Oklahoma City's going to win this in 5. Barring injury, I got Oklahoma City in 5, John. I said all that just to say that. I'm going to get to your next question in a second, but I got to get to my man Squeeze here. The Knicks been looking good the last few games, man. Can they beat Philly? Absolutely. It's a great series, though. Shout out to Philly, like I talked about earlier. They deserve a lot of credit for what they did. This is a very interesting series because really, outside of this matchup for the Knicks, and even no disrespect, but this is even counting the West, there's really very few teams that can match bigs with the Knicks. And that was a major advantage the Knicks had against the Hawks. I think it was going to be an advantage the Knicks would have had against Boston. It's going to be an advantage against everybody else. I don't have a tremendous amount of respect in terms of their game for the bigs in Cleveland. I've already said that multiple times. They get pushed around way too much. Allen and Mobley, they get pushed around way too much. They're ineffective at times, and there are plenty of times you can go through 5-6 minute spurts where those guys have no impact on the game. So I don't have a lot of respect for their bigs in terms of basketball, but Embiid poses a lot of challenges for the Knicks. He had a great series against the Knicks 2 years ago. Mind you, he was dealing with cerebral palsy and still averaged 30 in that series. Maxey was great in that series. But really the difference in that series 2 years ago when the Knicks beat them in 6, and it's highlighted by the iconic Dante DiVincenzo game-winning 3. But really the highlight and the difference in that series and what I think is going to be the difference in this series is the depth of the New York Knicks. The Knicks are just a deeper team. You could honestly say Maxey and Brunson is a toss-up about who the better player is. It's really about preference. I think Maxey's great. I do. And I think maybe Jalen Brunson gets a little bit more shine because of what he's done in the playoffs, because he won Clutch Player of the Year, because he's just overall had more success the last couple of years in New York than Maxey's had in Philly. But Maxey gets an opportunity to kind of attack that right now. I think Towns and Embiid is very close. You can call that a wash. I think Towns can affect the game a little bit more because we've seen the passing from Towns. But I think Embiid is just more of a physical force. However, with all that being said, the depth, I think, is going to be the difference. What are the Sixers going to do when they've got to get into their bench and they need production from somebody else? Paul George is going to have to be great in the series. I don't think Paul George was great last series. I thought he was good. He had some moments. But it really was Maxey in closeout time. It was Embiid in closeout time. And they're going to need a little bit more because, like I said, this matchup is different. You look at yesterday, there was times Brown was guarding Embiid. Luka Garza, right? Hugo Gonzalez. Them guys the Knicks don't have them type of guys. The Knicks, you're going to get Mitch and Karl-Anthony Towns on you all game. You're going to have to deal with an athletic big all game. And on the flip side of that, I expect the Knicks to really, really run Philly up and down the court and force Nick Nurse to make some tough decisions in regards to Embiid, right? Is he going to be healthy enough to get to a 7-game series? That's going to be the first really red flag and major decision in the series. Embiid, they win last night, which was a Saturday night. They get a day off. It's a very short flight up to New York from Philly. So they'll probably be in town either later tonight or early tomorrow, because again, that game doesn't start to 8 o'clock. So there's no rush for Philly to get up to New York. He should be good to go for game one. Will he be good to go for game two by Wednesday? Will he have to at some point? Remember, he's played game 4, game 5, game 6, game 7. He played the last 4 games in the last series. Is he healthy enough to play a whole 7-game series, or will he have to sit out a game or two? Because again, last time he had to sit out 2 games in that, 1 game in that series against the Knicks. He's had this history. Excuse me. So can they trust him to be healthy for 7? They're going to need another guy though, and they're going to need their bench to match the energy of the Knicks bench. Mike Brown. The real difference in that Atlanta series was the Knicks could keep coming at you in waves and keep getting production. Look at how effective Alvarado McBride, Clarkson, and Mitch Robinson were off the bench. Those guys were playing plus minutes consistently, plus minutes. Mitch plus 6.25, plus 8.25. Alvarado, all these guys consistently. Where it's like, even if you think you're chipping away at the Knicks starters, they have this wave of next guys, 4 guys that they're bringing off their bench that are giving them positive minutes. And that to me is what's going to really wear down Philly. There's going to be moments where you're going to be like, yeah, Maxey and Brunson, they dueling it out, right? And Embiid and Towns are dueling it out. Who's going to match up with OG coming off the series he just had? Maxey's also going to probably they might hide Maxey to try to keep him off Brunson, but I think on the flip side, Mikal Bridges is going to defend Maxey early in games. Can Paul George win his matchup? Because his matchup is probably going to be on OG Anunoby. Can he win that matchup? If he can't win that matchup, that's going to be a major, major hurdle for Philly to overcome. Because like I said, I think the 2 stars can be a wash. The best version of Embiid can match up or be even better than the best version of Towns. The best version of Maxey can match up or possibly be even better than the best version of Brunson. But look back to that series a couple of years ago. It wasn't just about Maxey and Brunson. It was the others. It was Hart's contribution. It was Dante DiVincenzo's contribution, right? Precious Achiuwa was on that team. OG was on that team. So those guys, I think that's the difference. The way the Knicks are going to match up with their bench and with their others compared to the bench and the others of Philly. I do like Knicks to win. I was talking shit last night to some people. I said Knicks in 5. I really think Knicks in 6, though. I have a lot of respect for Philly, and I think Philly is a good team. I just think it's a super, super tough matchup for them because they just don't have the bench. John, Cade had 45 versus Pistons and made a crazy comeback with the Magic, missing 22 shots. I think Cade needs a 30-plus game and a win to live up to the star billing. I agree. And we're about 30 minutes away from tip-off. Like I said, we're going to stay live for a few more minutes, and then we're going to get to these games. I'm going to give you my predictions on today's games as well as the next round. Cade was phenomenal. I thought Duncan Robinson hit some big, big threes, but ultimately the Magic missing 22 straight shots, scoring total of 29 points in the second half. The Magic really shit the bed and blew a golden opportunity. Now, I think the Magic will be competitive today, and I think the Magic still have a good chance to win this game. The main reason is the Magic's defense. If the Magic just center themselves and get back to who they are, come into this game and say, listen, whether shots are falling or not, let's stay true to our defense. And if we do that, that will keep us in the game until the shots start falling. And I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to see a team today in Orlando and Coach Mosley who's going to say, listen, we're rooted in defense. We're going to play our defense, and the offense will come as it comes. We've got Paolo. We've got Bane. We've got enough firepower to make it work and to figure it out. Now, is Franz playing tonight? And I'm going to check that out now as we're on live. I want to see what the update is with Franz. Franz is out. Franz is out today. So that's big because they really needed that third guy, I think, especially with his defense and how he helps them on the boards. They have him listed out right now still with the calf. I think Orlando hangs tough today. I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to say Orlando wins today. They have already won a couple games in Detroit. I think they win today and move on to the second round. Who they will play is really the next matchup of the day. My original prediction at the start of the playoffs were that the Raptors would beat the Cavs. I do like the Raptors. However, I'm going to take the Cavs today. Um, I've said many times, I'm very skeptical of teams when they come off that type of emotional win, as you saw from Toronto. That was a game that they had opportunities to win in regulation. They didn't. It took a very fluky shot by RJ Barrett, former Knick, to win that game. I think that's very tough to duplicate that level of emotion again. And I think I'm just going to lean into the veterans of Harden and Mitchell in a game seven as opposed to the young guys of Toronto. But remember, if you guys were locked in with me, I told you the reason why I thought, and I love the storyline of Toronto winning, was because then it created the narrative all offseason about, well, Cleveland gets bumped in the first round. Is LeBron coming home? Are they trading one of their bigs? Does Donovan Mitchell stay? And I think that's the type of chaos we're going to see in Cleveland if they were to lose this game. So I think that's still on the table. But I'm just going to lean into the veterans. I think the veterans get it done, man. So today I'm going to say Orlando and Cleveland win. That's the ticket I'm going to play. That's how I think it's going to play out today. In terms of their series, I'll give that prediction tomorrow night if it is those two teams. If it's not those two teams, then we'll give out whatever predictions. But guys, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Again, we're live tomorrow, 7 p.m. for Real Fans Real Talk. Then we're going to be live Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. The Sanchez Show. And I will be giving you guys the date and time of what that next show will be this week. As I mentioned, it could be Friday, it could be Saturday. We'll see how this playoff schedule lines up so that way we can determine what's the best day to go live again and interact with you guys. I appreciate you guys so much, man. I really do. You've been rocking me crazy, showing a lot of love, showing a lot of support. But I need you guys to continue that, man. Subscribe to the podcast, comment, send it to a friend, share, like, whatever you got to do, man. Let's keep running up this, continue to grow the platform and make it as interactive as possible. My series predictions, as I mentioned, I got Knicks in 6. If it is Orlando, Cleveland, I might be leaning towards Orlando. But again, I don't want to give any prediction now until we know if those are the teams that are advancing. If those aren't the teams that are advancing, then it makes no sense. But the Knicks, I expect to beat Philly in 6. In the West, I got OKC beating the Lakers in 5. I got the Spurs beating the Timberwolves in 5 games as well. But that's only if Ant-Man is not back yet. Early indications that Ant will be joining at some point in the series. There is just no timeline on. It doesn't look like it's going to be game 1. And so there's no timeline on if it will be game 2, game 3. So that's what we're waiting on. And as we talk about it, I'm going to look it up real fast just to see if there is any update on when he might be returning. But the last I heard was that it may not be until the middle of the series. Let's see. Sports Illustrated is reporting. Let's see what they're reporting on it. Yes, he won't be ready for game 1. Yeah, it's a multiple week injury, so it looks like it might be later in the series. Possibly, we're looking at possibly a game 3, a game 4, maybe when they're back home. Now, game 4 would be a week from today, which would give him about 2 solid weeks to recover from the hyperextension. So maybe game 4 looks like a realistic possibility. Minnesota's going to have a tough time those first 3 games. They should get Io back. But this Spurs team, I've told you guys many times, I really like the Spurs team. I love their defense. I love how they play. So I think the Spurs win it in 5 as well, unless something really, really changes with Minnesota. So those are my predictions there. Also, shout out to David Benavidez, who won yesterday, won a Cruiserweight Championship. First guy in boxing history to win a title at 168, 175, and at 200 pounds. We're talking about a super middleweight. We're talking about middleweight, super middleweight, and a Cruiserweight champion. He called out Canelo after the fight, which he's done for several years now. The rumor is Canelo is coming back in September. Obviously, it wouldn't be for Benavidez. I hope they get the fight done. At this point, I really do. I love Canelo. I've been a big supporter of Canelo. I do not subscribe to the thinking that Canelo is scared of Benavidez. I think this has become more of a personal thing where Canelo doesn't want to give him a shot because he just doesn't want to give him the platform. and the money and the exposure that comes from it. Benavidez has been disrespectful towards Canelo in the past, and I think Canelo's looking at it from that standpoint, like why should I do anything that would benefit you in any way, shape, or form? However, Benavidez waited his turn and was the number one contender for that super middleweight championship that Canelo held on to for so long. He was the number one contender for about 2.5 years. So he did it the right way. It wasn't like he was calling Canelo's name but not fighting other guys. He was still fighting everybody he was supposed to fight to keep his status as the number one contender for that belt. I would like to see him get the fight with Canelo. And I think Canelo should do the right thing by the sport of boxing and give Benavidez the fight. That's just my thoughts. If he doesn't, Benavidez may seek to fight Dimitrov or Bivol, and who wins their trilogy. And that would be a great fight as well. But ultimately, I think David Benavidez, at 29 years old, is on the cusp of being a true superstar of the sport of boxing and deserves the opportunity to fight the bigger names, just like any other boxer does. You deserve that opportunity. So shout out to him, man. Stay locked in with me. Like I said, guys, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you follow me on social media. We got some great things coming up. We're going to be working with Terry Spain in a few weeks as he comes into DC. We're going to be covering the UFL game. I'm going to be up in New York with some content and some coverage as I go to the Subway Series, so you'll see me at that. And if these playoffs play out, I don't want to put it out there, but if the playoffs play out a certain way, you may see me on the sideline of one of these games. I'm not going to tell you which one, but there is possibility something is in the works if the playoffs start to align the way I think. But with that being said, again, lock in, subscribe to the podcast. Real Fans, Real Talk, we're live tomorrow, 7 p.m. The Sanchez Show will be back Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. And then we'll have a third day that we'll announce for you guys. Subscribe, like, comment, share, do whatever you got to do, run up the numbers. I greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the games today. I got Orlando, I got Cleveland. With that being said, I am Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games. This was the Sanchez Show on a Sunday. And we out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for Real Fans, Real Talk. Enjoy your day, guys.